When was the last time someone told you you were going to die? I can remember one such time almost as if it was a dream. Soon after takeoff, I can remember thinking, why is the door to the plane open?
Whoa.
And sitting in the back of the plane, I can remember there were people in the front, and they were trying to get something sorted out. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And to the right of the pilot, there was a guy with long red hair. And I can just remember this long red hair just kind of blowing in the wind. And then something caught my attention to the left. And as I looked back to the door, I saw the red-headed guy fall through the door. And within a millisecond, I heard a large bang on the side of the plane. And I said, and I could feel it echo right through the skin of the plane. And I said, oh my God, the redhead guy hit the side of the plane.
Wow.
2 weeks earlier, my friend Joe and I decided to join the United Parachute Club. We were inspired by a newscaster who had done an expose on the club and had chronicled from his first jump all the way through, I think it was 1,900 jumps. He had died 3 months earlier at the club, trying to set a record for bringing 30 people together within 10.3 seconds in the air. It was a world record that the club held. We got to the club at 8 o'clock to begin ground school. And the wind was blowing. We were going through ground school. It was quite difficult for the jump master who was teaching us, because at the time I was very dyslexic. And you know, the guy told me to use my left hand, I'd be using my right hand. He told me to jump off the log to the left, I'd be going to the right. And all the time he'd be yelling at me. He'd go, Bob, you're going to die.
Oh my goodness.
He says, if you don't get this in the right sequence, you're going to die, or I'm not going to let you jump. So this went on, and all throughout the day we were just pulled away from the training because the wind was blowing, and people were being blown into trees, and we'd have to go climb the trees and get them out. At one time, there was a guy who was caught in the electric wires down at the end of the field, and they were trying to call the power company to get the thing set off, get the electric set off so we could get off of the power lines. Well, ground school started at 8 o'clock, and it was supposed to be over at 3 o'clock, and then we were supposed to jump at 4. 3 o'clock came, it was time for us to get into our jumpsuits and our parachute. And we're sitting on the tarmac, getting ready to go. And there was one last group of people before us. And I was sitting there, and I had talked to most of the people that were in that group because I had known from going to the club at various points. And there was one particular guy. He was always high or hungover, and he was just an interesting character. But he was one of the last people out of the plane. And I can remember looking up and seeing his parachute just streaming, and I said, his parachute's never going to open. Now, this was not an unusual occurrence for him, because what he would do is he would pack his parachute right before he went to bed each night after partying, in the dark of the night, with a black chute. So I was watching him come down, and I was thinking to myself, is this really something that I want to do? And just as I was thinking that, his reserve chute opened, and he floated safely to Earth. We never did get to jump that day. The jump master decided it was too dangerous because of the wind and people going all over the place. So what we decided is that we would come back the next weekend, which we did. Got there at 8 o'clock, had an hour of ground school, again going through, making sure you could use all your hands. Because one of the things that you learn when you're jumping is mirror images. It's very important that if you're going to when you're in the air, your whole body works as an airfoil. So if you're going to pull the cord with your right hand, you have to make sure that you use both hands at the same time. Because if you just use one hand, the wind's going to take it and it's going to spin you around in the air. And if you're spinning around in the air when your parachute opens, it's not a good thing.
Whoa.
So we get to the club next weekend. We go through our checkout. It's time to get into the plane. I'm the first person in the plane. I get into the back, crouch in the back. In front of me is my friend Joe. In front of him is a red-haired dude and the jump master. Well, as the red-haired guy went out of the plane, and I thought he hit the side of the plane, what really happened was the static line, the tip on the end of the static line, which is the metal clip, which attaches to your parachute and attaches to the plane. It swung back and hit the side of the plane. And it took me a while to figure that out. So after he went, it was my friend Joe's turn. Joe looked at me and he gave me the thumbs up, and I looked at him and he had this mix of anxiety and fear and excitement. And he gets to the door and I said, he's not going. And all of a sudden he went. Then it's my turn. I get to the door, they get me out on the wing, and it seems like an eternity. I'm not getting the go-ahead to jump. I'm going, okay, how long can I hang out here on the wing? And I'm sure it was only like a minute, but it seemed like an eternity. And then I finally got the tap on my behind. It was time to go. What had happened, the plane had drifted out of the safe zone in the time the other jumpers would take it out. And they had to move over so that I would drift off into someone's living room down on the farmhouse. So as soon as I got the go-ahead, all I had to do was release my hands and the wind just blew me right off the plane. And I can remember looking up and just seeing the parachute, and I can remember seeing the line tie, and I'm thinking, oh, my chute's not going to open. I have to go through all this stuff I learned in ground school, and I was just starting to think about how to get my reserve chute open, when all of a sudden it just opened up. And that was a great sight. It just pulls you up, and it feels like it's pulling you up out of the air. And I realized at that point, all I had to do was just drift safely back to Earth. And I realized that when someone tells you you're going to die, that's really just a paradox for life.